you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Bittt.TV. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Wednesday, May 31st. How is everyone doing today? I hope you're doing well, and I am very much looking forward to a regular collaborator on Wednesday nights, Marc-André Perreault. But before we get to him, the Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, recently named by Deloitte and CIBC as one of Canada's best managed companies, the country's leading business award, by the way, which recognizes innovative and world-class companies. The best managed Canadian companies, this designation fuels Energy's purpose of creating progress for their customers, their employees, and their communities. Join a winning team and check out Energy's career page for available opportunities. Also brought to you in part by these guys here, Bittt at Tibi. Brewed in Quebec, a winner of a dozen international awards, Bittt at Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. And also brought to you in part by Murphy's Clinic, where I had a chance to go for laser hair removal. And my buddy Agnello Cavallaro back at Master Control, so did he. Murphy Clinic, an aesthetic clinic specializing in medical aesthetic care. They offer permanent laser hair removal, as well as a wide range of treatments for skin problems such as acne, rosacea, fine lines, and more. They currently have two clinics, one located in Montreal Shop Angus, and the second on the North Shore in Terrebonne. They're also opening very soon in Quebec City. Visit murphyclinic.ca or on Instagram at Murphy Clinic. By the way, once again, I know I told you Agnello went, and they specialize in laser hair removal. That's to remove hair off your face or a body part. Agnello did not have it done to his head, by the way, okay? He lost that hair a long, long time ago. Let's bring in a guy with a head full of hair, Marc-André Perreault from TV Sport. What's going on?
I used to have more, but I'm still okay.
You know why you used to have more?
No, I'm not. No, just no.
Because you wear a cap.
Exactly.
The head needs to breathe and the hair needs to breathe. I believe that, by the way. I'm no doctor by no means. But I find that all my buddies that wore caps more than everyone else have less hair than everyone else. Have you ever noticed that? Or
not really.
You don't think so? You don't think the head, the scalp, the hair needs to breathe? You don't think so?
Well, it's not like it's under his block or
I understand that. I understand.
Anyway.
Listen, it's just my theory. I don't know if it's true or not. What can I tell you?
Okay, but no, I'm still fine. Thanks.
Yeah, my son wears hoodies a lot, and I tell him, you got to remove the hoodies. You got to make the head breathe.
Yeah, but it's cool. Right?
Yeah, you're right. It is cool, and so are you. You're pretty much on vacation, yes and no, because you're working with me here, so you're not on vacation, but you're on vacation from TV Sport because you worked the entire preseason, the entire season, and the playoffs. You will not be working the Stanley Cup Final, and now there's two teams that are left. And by the way, good for you for picking Florida versus Carolina, because we gave our predictions here, and I asked you, and you said, how do you want me to go against Florida? I can't. And I said, well, I am anyway. And you end up looking like a genius because they swept Carolina. It wasn't even close, even though Rod Brindamore says it was close.
Well, it was, but I didn't think it would be, in four. But, Florida is such on a roll, and, confidence makes big things. And Bobrovsky's on fire, Tkachuk's on fire. And I told you, they're playing kind of FU hockey. We don't care. We're just going to play our way. And it's working right now. The only thing, it's going to be 9 days between Game 4 against Carolina and game 1 against Vegas, I think it's gonna hurt them. Maybe not down the road at the end, but I think at first it's gonna hurt them.
It can only hurt them in game 1, I think. But if they win that game 1, it will only help them, like you just said, in the long term. So, look, are you going with Florida again?
No, going with Vegas.
Really?
Vegas in 6. Yeah. I'm going with Vegas because of the depth. If the fourth line is playing like they did last game, I don't think.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You and I are going to have fun here. You're going for Vegas because of depth, by the way, and you're not the only one, because Vegas are actually favored by the sports books, but Vegas doesn't have as much depth as Boston did.
Well, that's funny.
It's funny, Mosey, too. It's funny that if you're going to say differently, it's funny. Boston Bruins just picked up 3,000 points in the regular season.
Okay, yeah. Okay, tell me a better third line than Vegas. Like, you have Stevenson, Stone, and sometimes Howden, sometimes Amadio or whoever, but you have Mark Stone on your third line.
Yeah.
So let's talk about depth. You have Nicolas Roy on your fourth line.
That's a great fourth line, by the way. The line with Nicolas Roy and William Carrier.
Carrier and not Bluger, Kolsar.
Very good line.
It's quite something, and they have such a good chemistry, and they like to play with one another. And I mean, Game 6, I mean, for a fourth line, it was one of the best performances I've seen.
All right, okay. So listen to this for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Patrice Bergeron with Tyler Bertuzzi to his right, Brad Marchand to his left. You got that one?
Pretty good. Yeah, that's good.
David Krejci with David Pasternak to his right and Pavel Zacha to his left.
That's very good.
Charlie Coyle with Jake DeBrusk to his right and Taylor Hall to his left.
That's
and
big
on
name.
The fourth line, Thomas Nosek with Garnet Hathaway on his right, Trent Frederick to his left. On defense, Orlov McAvoy, Carlo and Lindholm, Forbert and Grzelcyk, and Ullmark and Swayman.
Yeah, but you had injuries. You had. I mean, it's tough to beat. And down 3-1. I mean, it's almost a miracle. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know. It's because you're saying I should take Florida because they beat Boston in round 1. Doesn't make sense, right? I think it's just like Vegas. They started. I don't know if we can say slowly, but I've seen them against Edmonton. I mean, that's a tough customer.
I'm just playing. I'm playing with you right now. I'm just playing. But my whole thing was because you said I can't go against Florida after they beat Boston and after they beat Toronto. I assumed that you were going to take Florida in the final. I actually like the fact that you're taking Vegas. I think it's kind of cool. I said, I've been saying for the past couple of days, I believe Vegas is a deeper team, especially on defense, than Florida. But the logic is that they're deeper, they should win. But because there's been no logic in these playoffs,
exactly.
You're right. I'd have to go with Florida at that point.
And I might end up being wrong because I mean, they have Brandon Montour is awesome. Big beard. What's his name?
Radko Gudas.
Radko Gudas is playing great hockey. Mark Stahl is playing well. So, I mean, I think it's going to be real tight. But Vegas 6 or 7. But man, if Tkachuk keeps on being clutch like that, it's going to be hard to beat. If Bobrovsky still, I think Bobrovsky is the hotter goalie right now. Tkachuk is the hottest. Yeah. But I mean, Eichel is quite something. I don't know if you had the chance to watch a few games, but he is great. Nick was awesome.
Isn't that something that Jack Eichel was the second pick overall in that same draft year as Connor McDavid? Connor McDavid went number 1 to Edmonton. Jack Eichel went number 2 to Buffalo. And Eichel's Buffalo was in like the basement for like, who knows, like ever since he got into the league, they've never really been able to get out of it. And then he basically forced himself a trade out of Buffalo, and the trade is pulled off with the Vegas Golden Knights for Peyton Krebs and for Alex Tuch. And he gets out of there and he goes to Vegas, and they're 4 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup. And it's just, that's the way. Sometimes, you know what, you need to be lucky because Jack Eichel would have stayed his entire career in Buffalo and he probably would have never won. And now he's 4 wins away and he probably will win it. So good for him. We wish him all the best.
He's a different person. I mean, Jack Eichel in Buffalo and Jack Eichel in Vegas, he was so nice with us. Kind of having fun with the fact, that it was French TV, it was saying merci, and it was, saying hi in the locker room, and just a guy who looks happy, and he's playing great hockey right now. So.
But I mean, living in Buffalo, with all due respect to Buffalo, by the way, I don't want anyone in Buffalo mad at me, but living in Buffalo compared to living in Vegas,
suburbs are great.
Yeah, the suburbs are great. Yeah,
a lot of former players in Buffalo decide to live there after.
Brian Jonta did, right? Yeah. Listen, I only visited Buffalo, and I never went to Vegas, so I don't know. But judging by the images, judging by the pictures, I mean, we saw like a video last night on the podcast. We showed it, which was at Circa Hotel. You saw that, right? And supposedly that outdoor area where all those swimming pools are and stuff like that, it's called the Stadium. And Mike Zeisberger of NHL.com, who used to work for, I believe, the Toronto Star, he mentioned to us that he looked up those loungers on a regular day just to basically sit on that lounger, not to watch, just sit on that lounger or lie down on that lounger. Never mind watching the game or whatever. It starts at $500 US to lie down on that lounger.
I mean,
$500.
Money is no object over there. It's crazy. You always have your hand in your pockets in Vegas. But yes, it's great. But I wouldn't live there. Well, I don't. I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Who knows? Maybe one day the numbers will come out. All right, okay. We will talk about the Canadiens in a minute or two. And by the way, and I'm going to mention it to you as well. We're going to go with abbreviated versions right now of the Sick Podcast. It doesn't mean that we will not hit the 1 hour, but there will be nights when we will, and most nights over the next couple of months, I think we will not, because we are in summer mode. And so instead of taking vacation, we're still going to continue to work through it, but our vacation is going to be maybe more abbreviated shows. We'll get to the Canadiens in just a second. Earlier today at 1:30 this afternoon, the Toronto Maple Leafs made official Darren Dreger's report that came out last night, that after his research and talking to his people, he said that Brad Treliving was going to be the 18th general manager in Toronto Maple Leafs history, and the announcement was made today. 9 years as general manager with the Calgary Flames, relieved of his duties in the last month. Prior to that, 7 years as assistant general manager of the Coyotes. Brendan Shanahan said he wanted to hire someone that had a lot of experience. He got just that. The fact that he has experience in a hockey market and in a Canadian market like Calgary obviously helped. The last time I spoke to you, you told me that in your opinion, Marc Bergevin was a great GM. So I'm going to ask you right now, do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs made a mistake by choosing Brad Treliving over Marc Bergevin? I asked Mike Zeisberger yesterday. He gave me an interesting answer. I ask you the same question.
No, I think it was a good decision. I mean, he did last year. He was handcuffed, so he made great things with. Gaudreau wanted to be out. Same thing with Tkachuk. Huberdeau and Weegar are great hockey players, so it was a great job right there. But I think he maybe stuck a little too long with his with his head coach. But
with Daryl Sutter,
but again, they finished with more points than Florida, so let's not forget that. It was not all bad. It's just that sometimes in a hockey you just need a change. But I think it really hurt them to stay too long with Coach Sutter.
You wonder, had Daryl Sutter been relieved of his duties earlier, and it was tough to do, by the way, because in 2022 he was the coach of the year. Like, it's a very, very tough thing to do.
Yeah, but how hockey works.
You wonder, had he been relieved of his duties, if Gaudreau would have wanted to stay in Calgary, and if Matthew Tkachuk would have wanted to stay in Calgary.
Probably. But I mean, you're talking about he was coach of the year. I mean, last year, Pete DeBoer and Cassidy were fired, and now they ended up in the conference final. So, you can't say, last year he did this, did that. No, it doesn't work like that in hockey. You know that.
Same thing for Paul Maurice, by the way, first year with the team, and he makes it to the Stanley Cup final. But
exactly different circumstances, but anyways,
and if he would have relieved Sutter of his duties, and if it's a big and it's a big if, Johnny Hockey would have stayed, and Matthew Tkachuk wouldn't want out.
Well, I can't.
Tree Living would probably still be in Carolina, in Calgary. Pardon me.
Probably, but let's say after, last summer he did the best he could. Okay, so he still had a great team in front of him, and I think if he would have taken the decision to let Sutter go, like I don't know, December, January, when it was clear that something was wrong, I think they would have made the playoff.
Yeah.
So, but
I hear you.
Yeah.
Hey,
sometimes,
Yeah, interesting conversation with Nick Suzuki. Let me just bring up something here off of Twitter, if we can. Après 2 campagnes pénibles, Nick Suzuki se réjouit d'entendre la haute direction du Canadien hausser les attentes pour la prochaine saison. After 2 painful campaigns, Nick Suzuki is delighted to hear the Canadian senior management are raising expectations for the next season. This from Simon Olivier L'Orange of La Presse newspaper. All right, okay. We know where Jeff Gordon stands. We know where Kent Hughes stands. We know that Jeff Molson hired Jeff Gordon, who hired Kent Hughes, so that a rebuild could take place. I believe at times they have told us that they wouldn't mind an accelerated rebuild. And at times they have told us that, you know what, if they need to be on the losing side for the next couple of years, it's not the end of the world. Okay. So how do you think it's going to go down? And what do you make of those comments by Nick Suzuki?
Well, I mean, did we learn something? I mean, I'm just saying that it's obviously they want to be better a little bit every year until, I don't know, what's the plan? Maybe 3-4 years.
Yeah, no, but the reason why I asked you the question is you don't think, based on what we're hearing now, that the goal is to make the playoffs next season.
I think so. I think that's the plan. I just think that they just were not lucky enough for the draft. Being first, obviously, second would have helped a lot. So I think it's going to take some time, but now you still have to sign Caulfield. You still, you have to be careful with the amount of money you're spending on him, kind of contract you're giving him. Because at the end of the day, in 2 or 3 years, it might have a, great effect.
Yeah.
But I think the plan is, to fight for the playoffs. But because, again, we see what's happening right now. Once you... famous Bergevin quote, but once you get in the playoff, you never know. But I don't know. When you watch, and it's the same, even in 2021, when they made it to the finals, you look at other team and they seem so far from, just from Florida, from Vegas, teams like that. So I don't know. It's, a lot of young players will have to take a big step. So to me, that's the biggest question. But what kind of step the young player will take?
There's a lot of people watching and or listening right now who are saying, you know what, it's probably not impossible to think that they can make the playoffs next year because all the injuries they had, they were so competitive in the games with half a team. Imagine if the whole team is there.
Yes,
a lot of people think that. I don't necessarily agree with that, by the way, but because I think the games were meaningless down the stretch. There's no pressure.
Exactly.
You're just playing, right?
Yeah, when you're not going to make the playoffs, it's different. But to me, goaltending situation is a big question mark. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It's a young decor, and it's it's not going to be much older next year. Edmondson is, he's not healthy. Like, it's not optimal for him. Savard is going to be 1 year older. So what about the young?
Edmondson will be moved by the deadline.
That's a big possibility. But decor to me is the big question mark. And then after, in front, is Slavkovsky going to take a step? What kind of step will Suzuki take? Caulfield, can he score 30, 40, 50? So many questions. So
Slavkovsky took a step in education, by the way. I don't know if you saw that on social media, but I think he returned home to his motherland, and it looks like he graduated from high school. Did you see that?
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Good news. He's such a great kid. I mean,
this
locker room, the biggest strength of this locker room, if they have great kids, great personalities, you have Slav, Caulfield, you have Goulet's a great kid, Jacky, Jordan Harris. I mean, he's just a nice person. So to me, that's one of the biggest assets of Montreal right now. Montembeault, Savard. So anyways, I could go on and on. But
I spent 2 hours with Goulet on Sunday afternoon. Yeah, because of course, one of our proud sponsors here at the Sick Podcast is sports card store La Tornade on 1 Avenue de la Fabrique in Vaudreuil-Dorion. And they had an autograph signing between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. with Caden Goulet and former Hab, Yvon Lambert. And so the Sick team was there. So we spent a couple of hours together. And, Agnello said to me in the parking lot when we left, I think he's become my favorite Montreal Canadian. And I think he will be for a very long time. Just a genuine, good person. Polite, respectful, well-mannered, made time for everyone, signed everything he needed to sign, took pictures with everyone, engaged in conversations, and not just conversations about sports or hockey or football or the Team Canada game that was going on at the World Hockey Championships that he was watching at the same time, but also, wanting to know a little bit about yourself and wanting to know a little bit about your background and wow, very impressed. Very impressed.
So again, they have a lot of great kids, so that's going to help.
Yeah, and you talked about Slavkovsky. Slavkovsky was on with my buddy Chris Nyland on the Raw Knuckles podcast, probably about give or take 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Time flies when you're having fun. It was probably a month ago, but anyway, he when Knuckles would ask, "You're going to win the Stanley Cup with this group?" Oh yeah, for sure. Like there's a lot of players that wouldn't answer, and maybe he's young and he's a little bit naive, but he's genuine, and he's very, 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 very genuine, very, very genuine.
And he's funny. When he started, I mean, sometimes it can be impressive to have so many cameras or microphone, and he was just having fun with it. He was just not scared of media. Like we've seen so many players being scared for nothing, and being careful of what you're saying, just be yourself, and it's gonna work. And Slavkovsky understood that so well, so he's just a great kid. Yeah.
Speaking of a good conversation, Montreal Canadiens head coach Martin St. Louis, I don't know if you caught this, but a couple of nights ago was on
Soundbites.
Was on the Spitting Chicklets podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said was he was asked about his entry into the National Hockey League, right? And he said, I had the ability to be a player early on in my career, and I had the ability to be a good player. He said, but the reason why it didn't happen, he says, because mentally I wasn't ready. He goes, I put the National Hockey League on such a pedestal that, it's the pinnacle, it's the highest of the high, that I was wowed that I was on the ice with so many greats and playing against so many greats. And I couldn't believe that I was at the show. And so I was overwhelmed in that respect. So the hockey part of it, like I knew I was a good player and I knew I can play, but I put the NHL so much on a pedestal that mentally I wasn't ready to be one of those very good players in the league. And I was, and this shouldn't surprise me because you and I have been talking about Marty St. Louis in terms of being a genuine person. We've been talking about him all season. Such humility, though, eh?
Yeah. I think, well, so much different from what I experienced with him when he was in New York. He said in that podcast, isn't it, that he took some leadership and how to speak in public courses, and
after his career, he was doing a lot of public speaking. Yeah.
And this guy, even if it's a Tuesday morning press conference, I don't think I can count on my hands the number of times, he felt like he didn't want to be there or didn't want to say anything interesting. I mean, it doesn't happen. When he talks. And it's, so I did not see him like often when he was in New York, but it's a world of difference. And now it's a treat to have him every day in Montreal.
I hope to have him on the podcast sometime soon. I figure if he does one out of Pittsburgh, he'll end up doing one out of Montreal. Fingers crossed. I hope.
My guess.
But I'm gonna say this. It's funny because so I remember early on in my career, I did some reporting. And so I would show up to the Bell Center, a microphone in hand, and go get some interviews at practice, after practice, before games, after games, and all that stuff. And I remember being in the visitors' locker room one day, and it was the Tampa Bay Lightning and Marty St. Louis. And I was a little bit wowed because there was a lot of star power in that locker room, right? Marty St. Louis, Vinny Lecavalier, Steven Stamkos, right? Brad Richards, correct. The list goes on and on. And I don't remember if I talked to St. Louis or not, but I was somewhat intimidated because he just didn't seem very approachable. I didn't get the feeling that he liked the media very much, and I didn't get the feeling that he wanted to talk. And it looked like he put up his guard, and it was like, you know what, don't talk to me. I'm not in the mood type of thing. And so, not many people ended up talking to him. I don't remember if that was the case too with our French media, of course, because he did interviews in English and in French. Was he more accommodating, or was he like that?
No, I think it was. I think he was just like a cold person when he was playing. I was told that it was kind of a nobody believed in me. Now I'm going to show you kind of mentality. I don't know if, again, it's just, I've heard that from colleagues in New York that, they kind of noticed that maybe it's the case. And it worked, but his eyes, I remember his eyes, and, he was at his stall, and you would, asking to talk if he was available, and he would just do that. And, with his eyes, you were, okay, I can't go wrong or ask a stupid question because it's not going to end well. But
smaller players, to make it to that level, when so many people bet against them, you have to be oozing character, right? It's you have to have character like off the charts.
Look at Marchessault.
Well, you're right about that. That's another great example. I never had a chance to watch the Pocket Rocket Henri Richard play. Of course, I know, like you do, that he's won more Stanley Cups than anyone, 11 Stanley Cups. And he was a catalyst, a real hero in the Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup win in 1971 in Game 7. He scored 2 goals in that hockey game. Jacques Lemaire scored 1. The Canadiens won by a score of 3-2. And Ken Dryden made a save that still today, what is it, 50 years later, people are still talking about the save off of Jim Pappen. But based on everything I've heard about the Pocket Rocket, Marty St. Louis had a little bit of Pocket Rocket in him. He had
the eye of a rocket.
The Pocket had those eyes too, but obviously the Rocket was infamous for those eyes. But that competitive fire burning in him, that huge leadership, he had that. Yeah. And you know what? He still has it. He's a lot more mellow as a coach. But when he gives certain speeches just to the media, and let alone his players. I'm inspired when I hear him talk.
Sometimes I am too. Like, I'm in my car after practice. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that in my life, and I'm going to use this and use this. So, you know, he doesn't speak for nothing. And that, I mean, that's a quality not a lot of people have. So that's,
Yeah.
You do have it. You do have it.
No, sometimes I speak for nothing. Believe me, I do. Here's a clip. It lasts over 2 minutes, but it's really intriguing and it's really worth it. Once again, Marty St. Louis on the Spitting Chicklets podcast. Listen to this.
Again, I really, patience is a big part of it, but, like I always say this, like everything in life has an expiration date, we do, everything. And I think patience has one as well, like to me, and to me, the player's attitude and commitment will dictate how much patience you're going to have with them. But, for me, like looking back at my career, again, I feel like, all my experience really prepared me for the job that I have now, especially the way the league is now, because, I was, obviously I played college, but then I was an American League guy. I was a call-up. I was a guy sitting in the stand in the NHL. Obviously I worked my way to, being a top six, an all-star, So I feel like for me on my bench with my players, there's not one guy that I don't really understand what he's going through. So I feel like I can help each and every one of them, obviously differently. They all have their own expectation. They all have different type of pressures. But that's probably one of my favorite things to do is coach the individual, which I think it's a big part. I think if you're able to coach the individual, I think collectively we're all going to benefit from that. But I feel as players in this league, my experience from my time in the NHL, I think the individuals got lost. I think everything was about coaching the team, not the individual. And I think we've taken a huge step in development in many sports, and that's something that I've been very inside of that in my last, coaching the kids. And I've done a lot of research and how to, and I've leaned on a lot of people. And, I've never been a guy that knows it all, but I've always been somebody that's willing to find the answers, and the answers are everywhere. But you just gotta, sometimes be patient to find them. And so I would say patience is huge in terms of finding those answers. And it's okay to not have all the answers, but it's.
But we cut it short there. But I think you said, but it's a crime not to go looking for them. I believe you said.
Okay.
What an answer though. Did he get it right when he talks about player development that it got lost and coaches have ended up coaching a team and not players?
That's why Adam Nicholas is there, and he's doing such a great job. And after not every practice, but pretty much he takes one player and they work on something. Like they were working beginning of the season with Justin Barron, the way he moves his feet on the blue line. He did the same with Jordan Harris, and sometimes it's puck handling with this guy or whatever. So I mean, he's not only saying this, but Montreal Canadiens actually do this, and he's 100% right. It's always, hockey is always about the team. But you have individuals who are making the team. So at one point, you have to work specifically on stuff for each player. So yeah, it's music to my ears.
Another clip that got my attention. We don't have it here, but it went something like this: as he was asked about, coaching and going from coaching Pee Wee or Bantam or whatever to coaching the National Hockey League, and he said that he was such a fan of the game that sometimes, it's kind of like it's going fast, and even for him as a young coach, he was trying to adjust, and then all of a sudden you end up going on a power play, or all of a sudden you end up being a man short, and then you kill off the penalty, and then all of a sudden you're back to 5-on-5 again. And he said the players nowadays, they're much more into it than when he was playing. When he was playing, it was up to the coaches a lot. And now the players have taken that responsibility to, I'm up next. They talk a lot and stuff. But once again, too, the humility, and we saw that during the season, to basically say that it goes fast. And at times it went too fast for him. But you know what? It's going to come. And with time, it's getting better, and he's getting more and more comfortable. It's not everyone that would admit stuff like this.
It was legit questions. The fact that he jumped from Pee Wee to a National Hockey League, and it was obvious that there would be a adjustment period. And to me, when he showed lots of humility, when he was saying that sometimes it was going fast and he improved, blah blah blah, but after. You remember in Nashville, I told you that story that they were losing a lot, and we were like, okay, we're gonna give the break, a media break to the coach because he talked a lot lately, and he said, "No, I'm not gonna hide. I'm gonna talk to you guys." And he insists to talk to the media, to take the heat on him, and then they lost that game in Nashville. And I remember the day after, it was an off day, and the four coaches got together, and they spent the entire off day searching for solutions. And he said at one point it was like we were out of solutions, and we needed to go back to basic. And after that, they started again playing better hockey. But just the fact that he admitted that at one point it was very tough. It was probably the low point of the season, and they were short of solutions. And then I was surprised by how humble he is, and he's not scared of showing, his not his weakness, but sometimes saying that it's tough right now, but we're gonna work our way out, and he does. So very impressed.
Hey, by the way, I hadn't mentioned this, but I will now. The Seattle Kraken extending general manager Ron Francis through the 2026-2027 season. Based on knocking off the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. Who can blame them, right?
Of course, did a great job. I think everyone's surprised by how fast it was for them. I'm not sure it was the plan, not sure it was the best thing for them because of the draft, but who knows what's going to be, what is it going to be next year? But would have been great to have Seattle, Vegas. Western Finals would have been great.
There was a report, by the way, elsewhere in the National Hockey League that Peter Laviolette was going to be named the head coach of the New York Rangers, but John Hines, ex-New Jersey Devils and ex-Nashville Predators coach, has been granted permission to speak to the Rangers.
Yeah, some coaches, you wonder how many lives they have in a short span, and John Hines is one of them. But hey, good for him. But recycling coaches. It's always, there's a new one in Washington, so it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah. But
man, it's always the same names that come back, and I don't know. There must be, Benoit Gros, when.
Yeah, and Andrew Burnett, we forgot to Andrew Burnett, of course, named the Nashville Predators coach, who, by the way, had done a great job with the Florida Panthers.
He did. He's a power play genius, by the way.
And he was the assistant coach of the New Jersey Devils. And I was talking to Michel Bergeron. You probably had the same conversation with Le Petit Tigre. And when we were talking about the New Jersey Devils knocking off the New York Rangers, he kept on telling me, Tony, Andrew Burnett, lui là, personne parle de lui, mais lui a fait tout un job en Floride, puis tu sais, Lindy Ruff, là, il a toujours été Lindy Ruff, c'est toujours le même gars, mais avec l'addition d'Andrew Burnett, là, lui, c'est la clé. He said he's the key to the Devils' success that they had. He was very, very high on him. Mm-hmm. He got into some trouble over the past couple of years. Have you seen that video that circulated, by the way? Have you seen that? Well, he was arrested, eh?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was DUI, right?
Yeah, he had a drink or two, and that video ended up becoming public. And
I didn't see it. What's on it?
No, it's in the video. He says to the police officer, when the police officer asks him to walk and to talk and whatever, and he says to him, he says, I coached the Florida Panthers. I coached the Florida Panthers, and the police officer was just not impressed.
Well, he probably doesn't know there's a hockey team there.
Yeah, well, he will know if they end up winning the Stanley Cup. But anyway,
well, he's probably know by now.
So many moves in the National Hockey League. Hey, thanks for taking the time. Regular collaborator on Wednesdays, and we appreciate you doing this. And thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure, my friend.
All right, there you have it. Marc-André Perreault from TVA Sport. And thanks to all of you for listening and all of you for watching, of course, on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live. And you can also listen to us on Google, Apple, or Spotify. If you're watching us once again on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you don't have it already. It's absolutely free. Tell your friends about it. The more, the merrier, because the more people join, the more subscribers, the more money we'll make. It's a beautiful thing. Everyone's happy. No, but all kidding aside, if you enjoyed the podcast tonight, like it, share it with your friends. Comment sick right now. S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K. And if you're going to listen to us on Google, Apple, or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love. For Agnello and Sammy at Master Control, we'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place at 10 p.m. Eastern. They're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro. Felicita.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature.